The room that shouldn't exist. It was my third month working the night shift at St. Mercy Hospital. Most nights were calm, just the rhythmic hum of ventilators and the occasional emergency call. But that night, everything felt off. The air felt heavy when I entered the East Wing. My walkie crackled, though no one was speaking. I remember looking at the digital clock on the nurse station, 2:33 a.m., and thinking how endless the shift felt. I was making rounds when I saw it, room 313. There wasn't supposed to be a room 313. Our floor ended at 312. I froze in the hallway, double-checking the brass number plate gleaming faintly under the flickering light. 313. At first I thought maybe I was overtired, seeing things, but the door was solid, metal-framed with a viewing window just like all the others. And from inside, I heard the faint sound of a heart monitor beeping. Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled the handle. The door clicked open. Inside, the room was pitch black except for the dim green glow of an ECG monitor. It was attached to a figure lying on a bed. My breath caught. It was a patient in full oxygen support, skin gray, tubes running from the mouth. But when I glanced at the monitor, it was running a perfect, steady heartbeat. Beep, beep, beep. Then I noticed the tag on the patient's wrist. Patient 0, deceased, March 5th, 1973. I backed away, whispering, "This isn't real." The monitor suddenly flatlined. Beep! The patient's head turned toward me, slowly, deliberately. Eyes open, white, lifeless, but staring right into me. I stumbled out, slamming the door shut. My ID card dropped from my trembling hand. I ran back to the nurse's station. When I got there, my coworker Sam looked up, confused. "Why are you so pale?" I gasped, "There's someone in room 313. Sam frowned. "There is no room 313 on this floor. The last room is 312. I dragged him back down the hallway, my heart hammering. But when we reached the end, the corridor ended at room 312. Beyond it, just a blank wall. No door, no plaque, nothing. The next day, I checked the old hospital blueprints out of pure obsession. My hands shook when I saw the note scribbled on the 1970 layout. Room 313, isolation unit, closed after incident, 1973. Entire section sealed. The date, March 5th, 1973. The same as the death date on the tag. Even now, every time I walk that hallway on a quiet night, I swear I still hear that heart monitor beeping. The patient who called from the morgue. I was on call in the ER when we got a code blue from room 19, cardiac arrest. We rushed in, but by the time we stabilized the patient, he was gone. His name was Daniel Harris, mid-40s, massive heart attack. We followed procedure, zipped the body bag, and transferred him to the morgue at around 2 a.m. I went back upstairs to finish paperwork. The room was silent except for the rain tapping against the window. That's when the phone on my desk rang. I answered automatically. "Nurse station, night shift speaking." There was silence. Then a faint, trembling voice whispered, "It's freezing down here." I frowned. "Who is this?" The voice cracked. "I'm Daniel. I can't breathe. Please." I froze. "Daniel Harris?" The line went dead. My body went cold. There was no way. I grabbed the intercom and called down to the morgue. "Hey, Paul? It's the nurse upstairs. Did anyone go down there recently?" "No one's been here," Paul replied. "I'm alone." I hesitated. The patient who called from the morgue. I was on call in the ER when we got a code blue from room 19, cardiac arrest. We rushed in, but by the time we stabilized the patient, he was gone. His name was Daniel Harris, mid-40s, massive heart attack. We followed procedure, zipped the body bag, and transferred him to the morgue at around 2 a.m. I went back upstairs to finish paperwork. The room was silent except for the rain tapping against the window. That's when the phone on my desk rang. I answered automatically, "Nurse station, night shift speaking." There was silence. Then a faint, trembling voice whispered, "It's freezing down here." I frowned. "Who is this?" The voice cracked. "I'm Daniel. I can't breathe. Please." I froze. "Daniel Harris?" The line went dead. My body went cold. There was no way. I grabbed the intercom and called down to the morgue. "Hey, Paul, it's the nurse upstairs. Did anyone go down there recently?" "No one's been here," Paul replied. "I'm alone." I hesitated. "Can you check on Daniel Harris?" A long silence. Then Paul whispered, "That's not funny. His it's gone." "What do you mean, gone?" "The drawer's open. The bag's empty." I felt my blood turn to ice. We both met halfway down the stairwell, running toward the basement. The morgue was dimly lit, humming with the sound of refrigeration units. The drawer marked Harris, D, was open, indeed empty. Then, behind us, the morgue phone started ringing. Paul, confused, picked it up. His face went pale. He mouthed silently at me, "It's him." The phone speaker crackled. "You left me down here too long." We backed away slowly, heart pounding. The lights began to flicker. In the far corner, we saw a wet trail of footprints leading away from the autopsy table toward the emergency exit. I followed them just enough to see they ended at the elevator. The basement elevator light blinked. Up, up, up. I bolted for the stairwell, yelling at Paul to follow. When I reached the ER, the elevator doors were just opening, and standing inside was Daniel Harris, his skin pale, veins dark, eyes red-shot, his hospital gown soaked. His lips moved, barely a whisper. "You forgot to cover my face." And then he collapsed, vanishing into thin air before hitting the ground. The next morning, the hospital system flagged a new call record on the nightline, time-stamped 2:14 a.m., originating from the morgue internal line. No one was there that night but Paul and me. And Paul quit the next day. The Whispering Ward. Everyone in St. Helena's Hospital knew about Ward B. It used to be a psychiatric ward decades ago, but they shut it down after an incident. Nobody talked about what happened, but rumor was a patient had killed 3 nurses before taking her own life. Now that ward is used for storage, but on some nights the lights turn on by themselves. One night, our head nurse asked me to take some spare linens down there. I didn't argue, though my gut twisted at the idea. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, the lights in Ward B were flickering, faint yellow and unstable. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard it. A whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I froze. "Who's there?" No reply. Just that same humming buzz from the dying lights. I walked through the hallway, passing old wheelchairs, dusty patient files, and covered equipment. I kept hearing faint voices, overlapping murmurs, like a dozen people whispering prayers in a low chant. Then I heard crying, a woman's sobs, faint but desperate. "Hello?" I called out, following the sound. The crying led me to room B7, the last room in the corridor. The door was cracked open. Inside was an old hospital bed and a mirror covered with a white sheet. The sobbing grew louder. I pulled the sheet aside to check the mirror and froze. In the reflection, the bed behind me wasn't empty. A woman sat there in an old hospital gown, hair tangled, head bowed. She looked up, and her face was pale, eyes hollow. They told me I was crazy. I spun around, but the bed was empty. When I turned back to the mirror, she was standing right behind me, her hand resting on my shoulder, cold as ice. I screamed and ran out, slamming into the elevator button repeatedly. As the doors closed, I saw her reflection still in the mirror, smiling. The next day, I told the head nurse. She went pale and said softly, "Room B7 was where Nurse Lydia died, the one who tried to stop the killings." I didn't believe in ghosts before that night, but now, every time I pass the old ward, I hear faint crying through the vents, and sometimes a whisper saying my name.